Hello everyone. This is a short but succinct retelling of the movie Fight Club. Let's go. It's hard to talk with a gun in your mouth, especially since your thoughts are occupied with a certain Tyler Durden and the Mayhem Project. Namely, the militants laid a rattling mixture under the foundation supports of a dozen buildings. In a couple of minutes, only smoking ruins will remain on the site of several blocks. And it also has something to do with a girl named Marla Singer. Then the narrator is transferred to the psychological support group of men with cancer. He is pressed against the big chest of a sobbing man named Bob, whose breasts have grown after hormone therapy, but it's worth starting even earlier. For 6 months, the narrator suffered from insomnia. He is a typical white-collar 30-year-old man without a name, a slave of IKEA furniture, buying up all new items. Tired of insomnia, the narrator comes to the doctor. But the doctor does not see any special problems, advises to drink valerian, and to remove the moral torment, to look at the real torments of cancer patients. That's how the narrator got to the classes of the psychological support group. After listening to the stories of the assembled men, the guy fell into the arms of a former bodybuilding champion Bob. After his revelations, complete relaxation suddenly came, crying on Bob's chest. The narrator slept for the first time recently. He became addicted to it and started attending all the support groups in a row. He was silent, and the people around him concluded that everything was very bad for him. Every night he was reborn again until she appeared, Marla Singer, who was not ill with anything. One day after another lesson, the narrator approached Marla and said that she was a malinger and he intended to expose her. But the girl promises to do the same with him. But in general it's cheaper than a movie and they give free coffee there. But why does he need all this? The guy explains that he can't cry if there is another malinger in the group. He offers to divide the groups. She agrees. By the way, it's worth exchanging phones. In case of a schedule change, the narrator tells Marl. Next, we learn that the narrator works all over the world because he works as a coordinator for the return. His task was to study the consequences of car accidents and decide whether to return the car for revision. And then one day on such a working trip, a neighbor spoke to him on the plane. Does he know that oxygen is intoxicating? That is, in catastrophic situations on an airplane, a person panics, puts on an oxygen mask, and suddenly, euphoria and peace. Here are emergency situations in the pictures and on the faces of serenity, like cows in India. The narrator notices that they have the same cases. Then the interlocutor shows the soap he produces and gives a business card with the name Tyler Durden. He says that explosives can be made from improvised materials after landing. The narrator sees his new acquaintance leaving in a luxury car, then heading home. He used to count his condominium on the 15th floor with them. But when he arrives this time, he finds only a pile of smoldering pieces of what was his personal property. There was a gas leak, then a spark slipped somewhere, and a powerful explosion. But oddly enough, he finds a piece of paper with Marla's number. But he changed his mind about talking to her and calls Tyler. They met in a bar, and the narrator laid out his problems. But Tyler is amazed. Why does he need clothes? Are they necessary for survival? People are just consumers. They are obsessed with the external attributes of prosperity. They are not worried about murder, hunger, or crime, but celebrities and scandals. A TV with 500 channels, the name on the laundry tag. It's time to spit on it. It's time to evolve. Because people are slaves of their things. Then Tyler agreed. If the narrator spends the night with him, only first he has to hit him harder. The narrator was very surprised by such a request. And in general he never fought, and not immediately, but swings and hits Tyler in the ear, and immediately gets a punch in the stomach. Having got into the taste, the guys beat each other. They really liked it. And then they go to Tyler's house, which looks like it was intended for demolition. Most of the windows are clogged with plywood. The lock is torn off. The staircase is about to collapse. Also, more and more people around witnessed fights between friends. And the narrator came to work with numerous bruises, which puzzled the boss. Soon other guys began to take part in their fights. After such a battle, everything became possible. Even complex reports. The narrator also dreamed of fighting with his boss. And Tyler with his father. A lot of things in their lives, by the way, were similar. Both from the generation of men raised by women. But, on Saturday evenings, they became more and more convinced that they were not alone. Their company secretly gathered in the basement of the bar. There, Tyler announced the rules they had agreed on. The first rule of the club is not to mention Fight Club. To the rule of the club is not to mention Fight Club anywhere. The third rule is that the fighter shouted stop. The fight is over. Also, to people participate in the fight. The fights go one after the other, and the last one. The one who came to the club for the first time will take the fight. In these battles, he understood that he was the most alive of all the living. The muscles of the beginner at first looked like loose dough. After a couple of weeks, it began to seem as if they were carved out of wood. They all began to perceive the world differently. The narrator felt sorry for the guys who were diligently doing gymnastics to look like they were told to advertise underwear. The real satisfaction with life was achieved in the process of fighting. Everyone felt that they had found salvation and were ready to repeat it in a week or a month. The narrator explained his scars by falling down the stairs and was believed. And then one day, the phone rings in the guy's house and Marla's voice sounded on the phone. She didn't see him at any of the meetings, although she cheated and checked everything. He admitted that he had found a new band, then he hung up and didn't listen to what she was saying. But Tyler came to the phone and heard that Marla had eaten too many pills and might soon be out for good. Tyler went to Marla and took her out of the apartment, brought her to their house. In the morning, the narrator was surprised that the door to Tyler's room was closed. And, by breakfast, the girl appears in the kitchen. The narrator is shocked. What is she doing here? Marla didn't stay long and left. Then Tyler comes out and says that Marla is crazy, but flexible in bed. He shouldn't have let her sleep all night. Then the narrator gets a call from the detective on the explosion of his apartment. Says that traces of homemade dynamite were found at the explosion site. The narrator asks in surprise, but who needs it? But there was also Tyler in the room, who says that the one who destroyed his apartment gave him a new look at the world. And Tyler rejects the value of tangible property. Next, somehow Tyler suggests cooking soap, and for this you need to get fat. To do this, the guys go to the backyard of the liposuction clinic to get the most delicate fat in the world. Human. Back home, Tyler cooks soap on the stove, simultaneously enlightening the narrator about the methods of making dynamite. Then he takes the narrator's hand, licks it, and pours lye on it, which reacts with saliva and begins to burn the narrator's hand badly. This is a chemical burn. The narrator screams in horror and tries to block the pain, but Tyler calls to feel it. Pain is enlightenment. Everyone imagined his father as God, but his father abandoned him. They are God's unwanted children. Well, I don't care about it. He must admit without fear that he will die someday, and shows the same scar on his arm. Only by losing everything to the end, a person gains freedom. One day, the narrator's boss finds a piece of paper with the rules of the club forgotten by him in the printer, and then the narrator advises the boss to be careful, because the person who wrote it is dangerous. A quiet and decent-looking psycho can suddenly break down and start rushing from office to office, holding a carbine in his hands, shooting his colleagues. The frightened boss prefers to leave quietly. In the evening, on the street, the narrator encounters Bob. The man is glad. He thought that the guy had died a long time ago. Bob says he stopped going to his band too because he found something better. However, it is impossible to talk about it. The narrator understands that Bob is talking about Fight Club. It turned out that they go there on different days. Bob admires the guy who invented this club. The same evening, the friends meet in the ring and Bob wins. Bob thanks the world for such a gift. Then Tyler says they are the strongest men in the country. They work hard in factories and restaurants, bend their backs in offices. They are teased with clothing ads. They work to buy unnecessary things. They are the unclaimed stepsons of history. Television lies that they can become millionaires, movie stars, and rock music, and this infuriates everyone. Then something unusual happens. The boss calls the narrator to himself. He expresses dissatisfaction with his sloppy appearance and his absenteeism. To what the guy boldly replies about the blunders and shortcomings in the investigation of accidents. The boss is outraged. Is he threatening him? Here the narrator offers to give him the rate of an independent consultant. Then he will work from home and will not tell anyone what he knows. The boss calls the guards. But then the narrator abruptly begins to beat himself and destroy everything around him. Allegedly someone is beating him. The guards who came running find the beaten, sobbing narrator at the feet of the chief, and he has no choice but to provide everything required. Now the club meeting is held daily. Moreover, for some time, Tyler has been giving out various tasks in sealed envelopes to especially devoted fans of Fight Club. They often contained instructions to commit some minor hooliganism, such as defacing banners, smashing cars, feeding pigeons over expensive car parks, throwing leaflets into the plane with terrible contents, blowing up shops. By that time, fight clubs had already appeared in all major cities of the country. Volunteers start coming to Tyler and the narrator's house. One day Bob also appears on the threshold. After the test, he is accepted into the club. That's how Tyler created his army, but that's why. In the evening, there is a report on the club on TV. The police are investigating many acts of vandalism committed in the city, and somehow connected with underground clubs. Next, a team of fighters ambushes the police chief and threatening castration orders to stop the investigation. Tyler notes that they should not anger the people who serve society, and they are everywhere. Then one day they are driving in a car. The narrator asks Tyler why he doesn't know anything about the Mayhem Project. Here Tyler tells the narrator that it was he who blew up his house and freed him from the shackles of his old life. And then he says that everyone needs to buckle up, continues to put pressure on the gas, but lets go of the steering wheel, which leads to a terrible accident, and they fly to the side of the road. Here the narrator had to feel for himself what those who were the material in his reports felt. And then Tyler disappeared, and their house was full of people who were clearly organized and did something all the time, without explaining anything. One day Bob's body is brought into the house. He and his team were on a mission to destroy and smash a prestigious cafe. As a result, the police opened fire and Bob died. The fighters offer to bury him in the garden, but the narrator is outraged. This is his friend. His name is Robert Paulson. Here all the fighters begin to pronounce the name of the deceased. While a new rule appears, the one who died while performing the task gets a name. The narrator, seeing that the fighters of the club are acting in an organized manner and it is already difficult to stop them, decides to go in search of Tyler. He goes around the cities whose names were on the stubs of his tickets, and he finds a fight club everywhere. At the same time, the narrator had a feeling of déjà vu, because wherever he came, it seemed to him that he had already been there. He was always one step behind Tyler, until he got to one of the bars, where the guy greeted him and told him that he had already been here on Thursday, and called his name Mr. Durden, that is, the one who made him this scar. Although the narrator does not remember being here. The narrator is completely confused. He does not understand why he is confused with Tyler. He calls Marla and asks if they had sex. Marla notes that yes, he caresses her, then throws her away. Did Tyler hear everything? And then the narrator was just stunned. What did she call him? Tyler Durden, repeated Marla, and then the narrator sees Tyler in the chair. Who says why the narrator blabbed to everyone? And the narrator himself does not understand anything. Why does everyone take him for Tyler? And then he realizes that he is Tyler. It's just that earlier the narrator wanted to change his life, wanted to look better, be smarter, more talented, more free, like Tyler. So he has a new identity, Tyler Durden. But the narrator is still struggling with this, so sometimes it's still the same him. Then he rushes home dumbfounded, but finds only empty containers there. He understands that explosions are being prepared. Next, the narrator meets with Marla, wants to reveal to her the truth about his second identity, Tyler, that he really likes her, but her life is in danger. Here Marla replies that she likes him too, but he has serious mental problems and needs professional help. The narrator gives her money and puts her on the bus, and that he should not know where she will go. After that, he goes to the police and confesses that he is the head of a criminal organization. After listening to his confession, the officers suddenly begin to admire his act. And then they say that he ordered them that if someone tries to disrupt the Mayhem Project, even if he himself, then castrate him. They grab him and put him on the table, but he manages to grab a gun from one of them and run out into the corridor, and then escape from the station. Then, he goes to one of the financial buildings of the city and finds a van full of explosives in its basement, in the parking lot. At this moment, Tyler appears. He explains that he will not allow the operation to be disrupted. Such bombs are planted in 10 buildings. The goal of the Mayhem Project is not to kill people, but only to destroy all records of people's credit and financial history. But the narrator still tries to turn off the bomb. That's just the question, which wire to pull out. But if Tyler knows, then he knows, because they are one. He pulls out the green and the bomb is defused. Next, Tyler throws him out of the body and closes the car. They fight. But only the narrator is visible on the monitors, whom an invisible force throws down the stairs. And here he is again with a gun in his mouth, as at the very beginning. Tyler explains that from here they will see the sunset of financial history. Then they see the bus from which Marla is taken out. In the last minutes, the narrator tries to figure out why he can't get rid of the hallucination. But suddenly he realizes that he has a gun in his hand. Since Tyler has it, he puts it in his mouth and says he's going to shoot. Tyler panics a little and then the narrator pulls the trigger. A shot occurs. Tyler falls and disappears. And the fighters who enter the room are shocked as he is still standing after shooting himself in the mouth. Then the narrator sends the team down in a hoarse voice, leaving only Marla next to him. He tells her that everything will be fine now, even though they met during a strange period of his life. Explosions are taking place outside the windows, and the skyscrapers of financial centers are taking shape before our eyes. There are a lot of hidden meanings and references in the film. It is especially important whether what is happening on the screen at the end of the film is real. I will consider all this briefly and succinctly in the following videos. If you liked it, then subscribe to the channel and put a bell so as not to miss the next issue. Thank you for watching. Bye.